Deuteronomy 32, beginning at verse 11, says, "As an eagle stirreth up her nest, fluttereth over her young, spreadeth abroad her wings, taketh them, beareth them on her wings. So the Lord alone did lead him, and there was no strange God with him." Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6. "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." Before you sit down, repeat today's subject with me and say, "I'm going back to school." You may be seated. My sisters and brothers, as we come to the close of the summer season and stand at the brink of the commencement of the school year, let me start this discourse with a very controversial statement. For far too long, African Americans have made some catastrophic assumptions and some major mistakes when it comes to raising our children. These assumptions and mistakes have led us, just like the children of Israel, into a daunting wilderness. And like them, we've been slumbering around in a dark circle, desperately searching for a way out. In the wilderness, a number of disturbing trends prevail for our youth, particularly black males. Namely, pathological anger, unmanagement of their anger, the rejection of education, black on black crime, the shunning of marriage, misogyny, a propensity for underachievement, and the mind-boggling gravitation toward the ominous thug subculture. And in spite of the challenges, I've got some good news, and that is that the exit door is clearly illuminated. Our way out of this mess, our way out of this wilderness, rests on our commitment to raising exceptional children. And before we can exit this fear of hopelessness, the masses must first unequivocally embrace some critical truths. First of all, we must understand that transitioning into adulthood is not a natural process. We must accept the fact that no matter how good a mother a child has, it takes a man to raise a boy to be a man. We must also learn that if our children aren't properly initiated into adulthood, they are destined to embrace a subverted view of what it means to being an adult. And how many understand age does not make you an adult? I know a lot of 40-year-old boys and 40-year-old girls and 60-year-old girls still gossiping and acting like teenagers. Am I in the right house? You see, boys do not learn to become men through osmosis. Girls don't become responsible women by osmosis. You see, osmosis is a gradual, often unconscious process of assimilation. And the false assumption that boys will eventually figure out manhood on their own is what has led us into this ominous wilderness. In order to properly transition from boyhood to manhood, boys must be indoctrinated. In order to pass from girlhood into womanhood, our girls must also be indoctrinated. Pay close attention to this well-known but little understood admonition from God in our text in Proverbs 22. It says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." You see, when the Lord gave this command, he intended for us to follow his instructions. You see, the word train in the original Hebrew is considerably more intense than our English version of the same word. It means to initiate and to discipline. we are called to initiate our sons and daughters into adulthood. Meaning that we are to admit them into adulthood preceded by an in-depth rites of passage that prepares them for every facet of being a man or being a woman. See, examining the path to adulthood traveled by most African American youth, particularly our boys, reveals how we have miserably failed them in this respect. And consequently, there must be a change in the social order amongst our families, our communities, and even in our churches. One in which the masses commit to going back to God's original blueprint by raising our children. Yes, the youth are going back to school this week, but we need to go back to school so that we can properly raise our children to be who God called them to be. I know I ain't going to get a lot of help this morning because I'm stepping on some parents' toes, but I'm going to preach it anyway. You see, when that happens, we'll see a renaissance among African American youth, one that will ultimately restore our families and communities back to wholeness. So when we look at this text in Deuteronomy, Moses writes the text toward the end, toward the conclusion of his career as the lead player in the children of Israel's deliverance from Egypt. And the children of Israel have come to approach the advance to the end of their 40-year journey, their 40-year sojourn in the wilderness. They are about to enter into the promised land, and Moses has been informed and advised by the voice of God that he will not enter into the promised land alongside the children of Israel. However, he must still give them instructions and directives from God himself. Parents, you may not get to where your children get, but you still have to give them instructions and directives on how to get there. Historically, this text is to be a reminder to the children of Israel as to how God has dealt with them as a people. And every now and then I've discovered that it's good to remember. It's good to recollect and to reminisce in a real sense about what the Lord has done for us. And I think we would be a better church and we would have better church services if more of us could remember what the Lord has done for us. I'm convinced that part of the problem with the current generation is that the generation before them forgot about what God did for their parents and their grandparents, and they failed to communicate the goodness of God. So we have two generations of folk who don't remember by experience. They haven't read about it in a book, and they have not been informed about it orally, that we wouldn't be where we are today if it had not been for the Lord on our side. You ought to tell somebody, don't ever forget what the Lord has done for you. Oh, you can't live in the neighborhood you live in because you were so smart. Come on here, somebody. You can go to the school that you're going to because you were all that. You got accepted. Come on, somebody. Somebody bled. Somebody died. Somebody suffered. Come on here, somebody. Somebody went through something so that you can have the advantages that you have today. That's right. When I look at this text, I discover and I unearth that there is an analogy here that is set up with this mother eagle teaching and instructing her young eaglets how they are to fly. It gives us some helpful information that can serve as a launching pad for us to begin to soar productively and effectively in leading a generation that seems to be lost in the wilderness. And if we pay close attention, we can pick up some skills from Mama Eagle that can assist us in reducing the negative statistics, the negative status indicators, the negative results of children living a life that is antithetical to the will of God. Mama Eagle can help us become better parents and better fathers and better mothers and better role models. Notice, if you will, that I said Mama Eagle. Everybody say Mama Eagle. I didn't say Mama Chicken. I said Mama Eagle. You see, the problem with a chicken is that a chicken teaches her young to eat almost anything. In fact, that's why after you get a chicken, you put it off the yard and put it up and you nurture it with special feed, because if you take it off the yard, you will discover that it's been eating everything. And we can't allow our children to take in everything. Some things on television need to be restricted. They shouldn't be allowed to watch everything on TV or go to any kind of movie. We've got to countermand some of this ignorance being fed to our young people. But before we can countermand it with our youth, we've got to countermand it with ourselves. Oh, I'm about to meddle in here. We've got to pull ourselves out from under R&B divas. I just messed half of y'all up. And love and hip hop and some of the other garbage that we sit down and watch on television. We can't allow our children to play any kind of game or surf the web unsupervised. How many stories do we need to hear about young children meeting pedophiles that they met on the internet before we learn something? How many times do we have to hear that little Johnny learned how to build a bomb on the internet before he tried to blow the school up before we learn something? We can't be chickens. We can't let our children feed on anything. And additionally, a chicken will teach its young only how to scratch for things. It will only teach it how to pluck, how to pull, how to tug, and how to scratch and graze and nick, but it will never teach them how to fly. And we've got too many folk growing up trying to pluck and scratch, trying to get over, trying to get the hook up. Can you hook a brother up? Can you hook a sister up? Trying to figure out a hustle. Come on, let's go back to Martin, hustle man from the 5th floor. Come on, somebody. Instead of reaching for their potential. No, I said we got to learn from Mama Eagle, not from Mama Chicken. I didn't say we need to learn from Mama Ostrich. You see, because Mama Ostrich hides and covers and screens her eggs in the sand just below the surface, where they are easily trampled upon and easily crushed by those who are walking by and easily found by predators. And I've discovered that there are some parents just like that, who only cover and protect and shield their children with sand-like defenses, whereby they are easily discovered by predators of life and easily trampled upon by those walking by. They tell them, go to your room, and are completely naive to the fact that they are watching them as they do drugs in the house and bring different men and women in and out of the house. They sit them in front of the television and go somewhere and leave them prey to that older cousin or that older uncle who's been molesting them all along. They've only given them sand-like defenses. An ostrich is also notoriously known by another problem, and that is that the ostrich is known to place his head in the sand whenever trouble comes along. And I didn't say we'd learn from Mama Ostrich, because some parents are clearly in utter and complete denial, and they are operating under the ostrich syndrome. They are under the false illusion that things are all right. They have their head in the sand, acting like the problem in their home doesn't exist, acting like they don't really need any counseling, acting like their child doesn't have any problems or issues, acting like they don't need help or they don't see the trouble coming their way, acting like their child was an angel when they got arrested or shot or killed. Come on, somebody. Pookie ain't never done nothing to nobody. They got their head in the sand. No, I didn't say Mama Chicken. I didn't say Mama Ostrich. But if there's anybody in here who really desires to be a better parent, a better father, a better mother, a better role model, let's go back to school and let's learn a few things from Mama Eagle. When you look at the 11th verse in this text, there are 5 phrases that we want to lift up in an effort to improve and enhance our homes and our families and find out what it is that Mama Eagle does. And we discover that the eagle and their nestlings are in a place where the mother eagle had to do some things to move these eaglets from dependence to independence. Mama eagle had to do some things to move these eaglets from potential to performance. Do you know what that is? That's your job as a parent. It's your job to move your child from dependence to independence. And there are certain things that Mama Eagle does in order to do this. First of all, she disturbs. Then she draws near. Then she demonstrates. She develops. And then she delivers. First, if we're going to move our children from dependence to independence, we must be a disturbing parent. We got to learn how to disturb our children. The Bible says that the eagle stirreth her nest. That when they get a certain age, that she interferes with their comfort zone. We've got to learn to disturb our children's comfort zone. Time is out for trying to be their friends and trying to placate them. Time is out for respecting their privacy. I know I'm going to mess with some of y'all here. As long as the checks that pay the mortgage say Talbert Swan, they don't have no privacy. Every room in the house belongs to me. I can go in and out as I please. I can go in any drawer, any dresser, under any bed, in any pocket, in any closet, in any book bag, in any purse that's in my house. You don't get privacy until you pay rent. Come on, somebody. I know I'm messing with all the young folk in here. You got to disturb their comfort zone. You can't sleep past a certain time in my house. See, if you don't want to have folks still staying in your house 25, 30 years old sleeping while you get up in the morning and go to work, you better learn how to disturb the nest. Some writer says that what the mother eagle would do is they would remove the padding from the nest. So the eaglets had to deal with the thorns. You see, early on in life, we cushion everything for our children. But if you're going to move them from dependence to independence, sometimes you got to remove the padding. Sometimes we make it too easy for our young people. Stop giving them rides everywhere. 17 years old and they don't know how to ride the bus yet. Too much padding. 18 years old and never had a job. Too much padding. Driving a car, but they can't afford gas or insurance. They got too much padding. They got Xbox and Wii and iPad and Kindle and iPhone and iPod and laptops and won't even clean their nasty room. Touch somebody and say they got too much padding. You see, parents, there comes a time when you have to remove the padding. One writer goes on to say that if that doesn't work, the mother eagle will take that nest and literally turn it upside down. Let me help you here. Sister April, let me help you. Every now and then, you want your children to think that you're crazy. My mother's sitting right there, and I thought she was crazy. When she would get that shoe, I thought she was crazy. Every now and then, you need for them to think that you lost your mind. Up in here, up in here. Because the day will come soon when you will have to move them from dependence to independence. And sometimes you need them to think that mama or daddy will turn everything upside down to see them fly. Sometimes you just got to set it off up in your house. Set it off, I suggest, y'all. Set it off on the left, y'all. Yes, sir. The reason for the disturbing activity of turning the nest upside down is that the mother eagle is saying in a real sense that you were meant for something better